Hello and welcome to the Dream Team Professor podcast. My name is Scott and in this episode we're going to be looking at the top players to target in game week 28 Sun Dream Team. Now as always, the fixture ticker from ffstuff.co.uk to start with. We've got FA Cup quarterfinals this week, we've got Premier League matches, and then we've got a load of blanks as well, so teams without a fixture in game week 28. So we've got a lot on our hands. We've also got a lot of injuries that have popped up this evening that are going to cause us a few problems. So it's going to be quite a tough game week to navigate. Let us know how many players you've currently got available for game week 28 because this is going to be an interesting one. The deadline is Saturday, 16th of March, 11:15 AM. And we'll be doing a deadline stream, a Dream Team deadline stream at 10:15, so 1 hour before the deadline. Myself and the guys from Dream Team Tonic. So give us a follow on both YouTube channels. We'll be putting that out on Saturday morning. We're going to go through these one by one. So Manchester City first. They play in the FA Cup at home to Newcastle. Manchester United, they are at home against Liverpool in an FA Cup quarter-final as well. Arsenal are one of the teams that have a blank this game week, so you might want to look at getting your Arsenal players out potentially. Liverpool away at Manchester United in the FA Cup. Newcastle away to City. Aston Villa have a Premier League match away at West Ham. Both teams are in action today in the Europa League and both have gone through to the next round. But Ollie Watkins did get injured in this game, so we've got a few fires to look at from Aston Villa. Chelsea, FA Cup quarter-final against Leicester at home. Obviously, we're quite impressive in midweek, especially Cole Palmer, so someone to consider there. Brighton, out of the Europa League, and they have a blank in game week 28, so definitely one that we're going to be avoiding this week. Tottenham, they have a Premier League match away at Fulham. Obviously, Fulham play Tottenham. Brentford are away at Burnley. West Ham, home to Aston Villa in the Prem. Everton blank. Burnley face Brentford. Crystal Palace blank. Wolves face Coventry at home in an FA Cup quarter-final, so pretty good game there for Wolves, but they've got a lot of injuries as well. Nottingham Forest away at Luton. Sheffield United and Bournemouth both blank, and then Luton are at home to Nottingham Forest. So a bit of a mixture there, and it's a tough one to sort of get through, but we will get through it, and then there'll be an international break between game week 28 and game week 29. Something also that will affect our planning. I'm recording this on Thursday night. We will have the European draws taking place tomorrow, so we will know a bit more about how this fixture ticket is going to look going forward. I'm looking a bit more long term, so you can spread it out on ffstuff.co.uk. I've gone from game week 28 to game week 31. The game week 28 is the one I've just gone through. 29 is a Premier League double for all teams. So all teams will double game week in game week 29. They are both Premier League fixtures. Game week 30, currently showing as a single game week, but after the draw for Europe tomorrow, there will be European ties put into this week, and then in game week 31, the same will apply. So 30 and 31 will be double game weeks. They're just not showing yet because the draw hasn't been done. Like I said as well, remember that there's an international break between 28 and 29. Because initially, like myself, I was looking at this thinking, oh look, you know, City face Newcastle, then they face Arsenal, so maybe there's rotation. There's a big international break in between that, so that won't sort of come into it. Fixture volume, the teams that don't blank this week are currently showing us having 5 fixtures. That will still apply unless they're one of the European teams that have gone through. So City, Liverpool, Villa, West Ham will jump from 5 fixtures to 7 fixtures once those draws are done. And Arsenal, because they blank, they're currently down as having 4 fixtures. That will jump to 6 once we find out who we draw in the Champions League. Like I said, all teams double game week in game week 29, Premier League. And there's some good ones there. Could be a good week to potentially use some of your boosters. I know the part of the bus is looking quite popular for game week 29. And like I said, 30 and 31. 30 will be the first leg of European and 31 will be the second legs. Looking at sort of long-term things I noticed, Liverpool do have a really good run. So Man United away. Then in game week 29, it's home double against Brighton and Sheffield United. 2 really good home fixtures, one you might want to target for both defence and attack. City, they've got Sort of Newcastle at home I would classify as a good fixture at the moment, but game week 29 looks pretty tough. Arsenal at home, Villa at home. Obviously Villa have got quite a few injuries, McGinn, Kamara, Watkins, we'll have to wait and see how he is. But then from 30 onwards, it is looking a bit better. Crystal Palace away, Luton at home, and then we'll wait and see who their Champions League opponents are. And similar applies to Arsenal. No fixture this week. City in game week 29 away from home, which could be a massive game for the title race. But then it's Luton at home in that double game week, so that is going to be a good fixture. Chelsea and Spurs, I think, become viable options for this next 2 weeks. Chelsea have Leicester at home, and then they have a double game week of Burnley at home, Man United at home, so 3 home fixtures in a row there. They then have Sheffield United away in game week 30, and then Everton at home in game week 31. So 4 home fixtures in their next 5 looks quite appealing. And then Spurs, Fulham away from home this week. Double game week of Luton and then West Ham away. Luton home, West Ham away in 29 looks good. Followed by Forest at home and then Newcastle away. So you're probably going to want to move off them in time for the Champions League, Europa League returning. But I do think Fulham, Luton, West Ham could be ones to target. Villa and West Ham, these ones kind of look a little bit tough, but we saw that both of them have got good results today. So Villa, they face West Ham away, Wolves and Man City in a double game week, and then Brentford, Arsenal. And then West Ham have obviously Villa at home in the Premier League. Newcastle and Spurs in that double game week 29 looks tough. And then Wolves away, Fulham at home in 30, 31, plus the European fixtures once they're added. We're going to start off the episode with Manchester City first for teams to target. But this is going to be a tough one in game week 28. So possible rotation in the FA Cup. But there is a big gap between that Newcastle fixture and Arsenal in game week 29. The lineup may be stronger than we think because of it. So next 3 fixtures, I'm anticipating that they probably are going to be quite strong. So Newcastle at home, obviously they do take these cup games seriously. But then that double game week of Arsenal and Aston Villa, the title race is fully on. They can't be affording to rest players in either of those games. Maybe in Crystal Palace and Luton, when they're paired with, it could be a tough Champions League fixture. Maybe there'll be a little bit of rotation in those games. Haaland, probably the safest bet and maybe the best captain for game week 28. Newcastle are a bottom 3 defence away from home. And then Haaland was just 9% captained last week because he had the single and a lot of players had double game weeks. But could we see normality return in game week 28 with Haaland taking up a big chunk of the captaincy? It's a single for everyone, so it might not backfire too much if you go against him, but it is always a scary thought. 29 goals and 8 assists for the season. Kevin De Bruyne was going to be on my list for players to target. So he was transferred. He was the most transferred out in the top 1K last week. I think frustration had kicked in from sort of 2 low scores. His price keeps sort of going down. And then there were a lot of good doublers to choose from, like Kudus, like Bowen this week. I think a lot of people took him out to make way for them. And could have paid off if it was a Bowen or Kudus. But he did get an assist in that Liverpool game. 13 matches he's played. He's got 2 goals, 13 assists for the season. But he's not on my list any longer because he's been ruled out of the Belgian squad with a groin injury. No doubt he'll be fine for Arsenal. This does stink of an international break injury. Maybe he wasn't going to be included anyway. But say he's injured, doesn't have to go on international break and get your best players fresh for that decider in game week 29. I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin De Bruyne isn't the only one from this City squad that gets ruled out of going on international duty. I've seen this happen a few times before. Phil Foden, player to target, but I really don't think we need to speak about him anymore. He's 98% owned in the top 1K. I still favour Haaland for the captaincy. I know people will potentially go for Foden, but I just think it seems too risky to do. I would favour Haaland for the captain's armband. Defence, I'm really not keen at the minute. As you probably know, I had quite a lot of City defenders in my team at one point for that good run of fixtures. But the games are getting tougher and they've got everyone back now. It's hard to choose who to go for. I had Ake, but I took him out for Gabriel this week despite the blank this week because he had 2 fixtures last week. And I'm just not sure that Ake will even play this game week 28 one. So I think that probably was the the better choice longer term. With Gvardiol back, I just don't trust Ake to sort of play every single match. Even Diaz, who seemed nailed as they come, was rested for Liverpool. A game as big as Liverpool, their main centre-back or leader was sort of left out. But Pep has said that was a tactical move because of Liverpool's pace. Yeah, so I just think City defenders, potentially a little bit of a no-go. If I did do it, I'd probably go for Diaz, or I probably would go for maybe a Kyle Walker, or John Stones has looked pretty good. He got a goal in that Liverpool game. He's been joining the midfield, getting in better positions, but you just have to be prepared that you could get a bench in. Ederson replacements. So I was going to hold him anyway through this FA Cup fixture because he was never going to play. Ortega plays these FA Cup ones, but Ortega will definitely be playing because Ederson picked up an injury, wiping out Darwin Núñez in that game. Pep sort of said it looked pretty bad, but I don't know whether or not he will end up being back after the international break. He obviously isn't going to go away on international duty now. Ortega's 1.7 million, so you could do the switch to Ortega, but I wouldn't really bother. I think I would just go for Kelleher. Obviously, if you put Ortega in now and then Ederson ends up coming back for game week 29, you're going to be really annoyed. Whereas if you go for Kelleher, he's going to play this game week 28 fixture. He's been playing all of the fixtures for Liverpool until Alisson comes back, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be that soon. So I'd go for Kelleher. Kelleher has plenty of fixtures, but you could just hold, wait and see what they're saying after international break, because I think that the goalkeeper position is a pretty low scoring position overall. On to Liverpool then. I said I'd mention Kelleher. He's on the end of this slide. Liverpool had the 1-1 draw with City and then a 6-1 win against Sparta Prague this evening, which was crazy. 11-2 on aggregate. Next game is Manchester United away in that FA Cup quarter-final. The last result was 0-0. Then Liverpool won the game before that 7-0. If you can remember, Salah did really, really well in that match. And then it was 2-1 to United in the game before that. But I'd expect on current form, Liverpool should do really well in this fixture. And then game week 29 does look like a really good home double game week. So they've got Brighton at home, Sheffield United at home. I think you're going to want to have Liverpool attackers and defenders in for that week. And then game week 30 and 31, the double game weeks are still to be decided, but it will be whoever they get drawn against tomorrow. Man United in game week 30 in the Premier League away from home, and then Crystal Palace at home in the Premier League in 31. We're going to start with Salah, because I brought Salah in this week thinking that he would start this Manchester City match. He was on the bench, he came on for a few minutes, but overall I was feeling pretty disappointed about the decision. I think he could have had a penalty when Doku was sort of kicked. Doku kicked McAllister in the chest. I think that should have been a penalty, but it wasn't to be. And after that, I kind of thought, you know what, I've made a decision. I made a bad decision here. Salah probably won't play Sparta. But he started and he was back with a bang. So a goal and 3 assists this evening, 17 points. A really good result from Salah. Like I said, only managed that sub appearance against City, but racked up quite a lot of minutes in this Sparta Prague match. So I think if you're not getting him in for game week 28, I definitely would have a plan to get him in for game week 29, because Brighton at home, Sheffield United at home look like 2 prime fixtures for Salah. I think he's a must for that week. He's on 20 goals, 13 assists for the season. And yeah, overall, fairly happy with how that went. But a lot of people would have brought in maybe a Bowen or a Kudus instead, and they did pretty well as well. So not the end of the world. Darwin Núñez, he carries on being really impressive. So won a penalty in that City game, got the assist points, and then grabbed an early goal against Sparta Prague. He did go off at half-time, I guess rested for that Manchester United game. 17 goals, 15 assists for the season. He's played 41 matches this season, so getting plenty of action. One thing to quickly double back on Mohamed Salah, where he played so many minutes in this Sparta Prague game, I'm not 100% sure that he would start Man United on that, I think it's Sunday fixture. Diaz didn't play in the Sparta Prague game, so you'd expect that he starts. And with Darwin also being taken off at half-time, you'd expect he starts. So it's just what they do with that right-hand side and Salah. Diaz, I'd expect him to start. And if United do play the fullbacks that they've been playing, Lindelof and Dalot, whoever does play on that right-hand side, I really would fancy them against Man United. Hopefully, for my sake, it's Salah. But Luis Diaz, could put in a good performance against Manchester United. So if I had Diaz, I would still keep hold of him. McAllister, I think, deserves a bit of recognition. So scored a penalty goal in that Man City game. Got 4 tackles, 1 bonus point, 2 shots on target. But you will be losing penalties to Mohamed Salah. He's got 4 attacking returns in his last 3 matches though. So looking pretty good. Got a rest this evening as well. So I expect him to play Man United. Defence, there's quite a lot of good options from Liverpool at the minute. So Virgil van Dijk got 5 points and a bonus point against Manchester City. 5.2 average. And I think he's probably the safest longer term pick. If you think that with Bradley, you could have Trent Alexander-Arnold coming back for game week 29 potentially. And then on the other side, I've got Robertson, but we've seen Tsimikas get minutes. Joe Gomez can play at left back, although he played centre back this evening. I just think with that Virgil van Dijk position, you know that he's the safest one. But I do think that Bradley is a decent option. And also with Konate being out injured, Gomez probably is going to get some more minutes as well. He went off at half-time, so maybe he's going to be rested for that Man United game. And then on to the Liverpool keeper, Kelleher. Didn't really do too much, only got the 2 points this evening. But he has been averaging 4.3 saves per game since Alisson's been out. And he's a really impressive 2-a-week goalkeeper. So I'd be considering him as an Ederson replacement. Aston Villa. Things are not looking as good for them after this evening, despite the good result. Ollie Watkins scored, but went off injured within 33 minutes, just getting the 6 points. And it's not looking good. They've got John McGinn, who's suspended after getting sent off against Spurs. He's going to miss the West Ham game, the Wolves game, and the City game. So that's going to be a big miss. They've already got Kamara injured, Ramsey injured. So their midfield is going to be weakened, and now they're not going to have a striker. I'm not 100% sure what the extent of the injury was, but it sounded like it was some sort of cut. But with the quick turnaround, I can't imagine that he's going to be ready for the weekend. He was looking a great option for game week 28, but now we could potentially have a striker to replace. He's on 19 goals, 15 assists for the season. But yeah, I think with Ollie Watkins being a striker, that is a high ceiling position, and there's quite a good lot of options for game week 28 and 29. Douglas Luiz, not feeling so keen about him at the minute, despite getting 2 assists in this game. So really, really good season from him. 8 points this evening. But just with those other midfielders missing through injury or suspension, and now the attacker missing, I think I'd hold on to him, but I wouldn't go out of my way to bring him in. Obviously the penalty taker, so good potential for points. All set pieces too. But I just worry without Watkins what they'll be like going forward. Bailey got a goal tonight. He's looked good. 10 goals, 12 assists for the season. Really impressive. But yeah, I'm just a little bit worried about them facing West Ham without their top striker. Defence, I haven't been overly keen, but I must say 2 clean sheets against Ajax has been impressive. Moreno and Digne keep rotating quite a lot. So I'd probably go to Konsa. He was obviously suspended for this evening. I'd still go for Konsa for the Premier League matches, or Martinez in goal. But again, I think I prefer Kelleher and his fixtures. Chelsea up next. So 4 of their next 5 fixtures are at home. Saying that, even if you look at the home record, it doesn't mean they're particularly good at home. They're still 12th in the league for home form. But it just usually feels like home advantage is a thing. The fixtures are favourable as well. Leicester, Burnley, Man United, Sheffield United and Everton. Man United are the only top 6 they're facing in this run, while quite a lot of the top teams are facing each other quite soon. So Chelsea could be a good team to target for this run. Cole Palmer, really, really impressive this season. Goal and an assist against Newcastle, 12 points, 13 goals, 13 assists for the season. And really pleased to see him called up for England, the latest England squad as well. I'd love for us to take him to the Euros. He's on penalties. He's the 4th highest scoring midfielder in the game. And he's on 20 bonus points. And one thing I quite like about Palmer as well at the minute is that you've got Nicholas Jackson, who scored 3 matches running. And while I wouldn't choose Jackson, I just think it's going to benefit Palmer to have someone that's in form ahead of him or playing in the front line. So I think that could be beneficial for Cole Palmer. I think he'll be a really, really good pick for this game week and for this run of fixtures too. Gusto, I'm going to mention him. So 44 points from his last 6 game weeks. And for context, that is 4 points less than Virgil van Dijk. So doing really, really well. Virgil, in my opinion, for the last few game weeks has been right up there. Gusto is only 4 points less than him over the last 6 matches. So I thought that was quite impressive. 3 assists in that time. And there's only 1 game where he didn't get bonus in that run, in that last 6. So scoring really highly for tackles too. 7 assists for the season. No goals yet, but he has 20 bonus points from 28 matches. And the lovely graphics you see on screen if you're watching on YouTube are from ffstuff.co.uk. They've got some great Dream Team stats you can check out there. Gallagher, I'm going to put him up there, but it doesn't feel like a legitimate option for me. I just had to highlight him because he's actually Chelsea's highest scoring player over the last 6 game weeks. So while Gusto's got 44 points in 6 game weeks, Gallagher has 60. 6 more than Cole Palmer in that time, which included 4 goals and 1 assist. But while it's impressive, I'm not convinced that it's going to be regular. He's having a great season. Another one called up for the England squad. 4 goals, 9 assists for the season. I just think I'd rather go for Palmer. I feel like that just seems the obvious pick. If you're enjoying the video so far, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel to get kept up to date with all the latest Sun Dream Team content. Made it up to 1,900 subscribers, which feels mental. I'm going to try and reach 2,000 by the end of the season. So if you're not subscribed already, do please hit the subscribe button and support the channel. And do check out the latest episode of the Dream Team Tonic podcast. That is out now on YouTube and all podcast platforms. Spurs up next. And as much as I wouldn't like to have Spurs players in my team as an Arsenal fan, I do think they look like they've got a good run coming up and some good picks. So their run consists of Fulham away from home this weekend in the Premier League. Game week 29 looks like a nice double. Luton at home, West Ham away. And then game week 30, obviously they're only going to have single game weeks from then on. They don't have Europe, they're not in the Cups, but they have Forest at home and Newcastle away. So I think there's an okay opportunity to jump on them potentially for game week 28 and game week 29. You won't lose out on any fixtures, but you just might be mindful that you could end up getting stuck with them if any injuries or anything like that pops up in your squad. Son looks like the best option for me. He's now scored in back-to-back matches. He's got 4 returns in his last 2. Potentially captainable, I think. If you did want to go away from Haaland, I think Son is a legitimate option. I quite like Salah as a captaincy pick as well. But you know that Son is going to start this match. Whereas with Salah coming back from injury, playing minutes tonight but rested for City, you're not 100%. And I do think that Haaland will start in this FA Cup match, but there's always that risk of City that they could try and do something different in the Cup. So 4 games since the Asian Cup. He's got 2 goals, 3 assists. So 5 returns in 4 matches. He's on 14 goals and 8 assists for the season. And of course, he's a penalty taker, which is great for captain picks. I'm considering him seriously for game week 29. I was already. But now with this Ollie Watkins injury, maybe I'll bring that forward to game week 28. I'm seriously considering putting Son in my team. But I would likely want to move him out for game week 30 and game week 31. Maddison, he's got the most points out of Spurs players over the last 6 game weeks with 33. Son has played 1 less game, so you would expect that Maddison might be top for that reason. He's got 4 goals, 9 assists from 19 matches, and he's on 31 bonus points, so really, really good for bonus points. Just missed out on 3 bonus against Aston Villa in the last game. He had sort of 1 player performance mark less, so he could have done even better in that one. So 7.2 average for him, really, really impressive. But I just think I would go for Son, unless your strikers' positions are filled up already. Maybe you'd consider Maddison, but if you're choosing between the 2, I'd still go for Son. Defensively, I do think someone like Porro does have good potential for getting attacking returns. He's previously been good for bonus. He's low down on that list because he was injured for some time, so kind of ignore Porro when it comes to that list there. But the only thing I'm a bit worried about with Porro is that he hasn't got bonus in any of his last 4 matches. He's usually fairly good for attacking returns, but since Maddison came back from injury, he just seems to have taken a bit of his bonus off of him. So I think if I was going to go there, it's Porro, but I'm not overly keen with the Spurs defence. just because they don't seem to keep too many clean sheets. But it might just be a bit of a bias because they are the 5th best defence for goals against, but expected goals against, they're around mid-table, so just something to weigh up. West Ham, strange week for West Ham. So that 2-2 draw with Burnley was surprising. They were 2-0 down, managed to bring it back. But the 5-0 win this evening against Freiburg was really impressive. And a well-needed clean sheet for them because they hadn't kept a clean sheet since Brighton 0-0 on the 2nd of January. So that will do their confidence a bit good. And I'm sure they'll be feeling a bit better not having to play up against Ollie Watkins. Kudus, just 14% owned in the top 1k this week. Got 9 points for an assist against Burnley in that last match, but managed to get the maximum bonus points of 14 player performance marks, so 5 bonus points. We knew that he was decent for bonus, but it's just so repeatable with him, so done really well in that game. But then this match against Freiburg, he was frightening. So 17 points, 2 goals, a bonus point, and 4 tackles. 17 points is ridiculous. I see a lot of people bringing him in as 12th man. And Tony from the Dream Team Tonic brought him in as 12th man. I see some people captain him this week, or even get him off with max captain, with the captaincy going to the highest scoring player in your team. So if you did that, let me know in the comments below, or if you've just got Kudus, because that was really impressive. Someone that I'm definitely interested in bringing in. 11 goals, 6 assists for the season, 45 bonus points from 33 matches, and a 4.6 average. It's pretty decent for Kudus. Bowen, the 3rd most transferred player in the top 1k this week, 84% owned, 3 points at a blank against Burnley. I don't have him, so I was pretty pleased with that 3-point blank. But this evening, he had me worried. So a goal and an assist against Freiburg, and his finishing is just incredible. 11 points in this match, 18 goals, 7 assists for the season. And at this point, the earlier kickoff in this West Ham game, I think I dropped about 100 places just from this Bowen. I guess a lot of people captained him or had him in, and a few people probably had Kudus as well. And so yeah, really did damage me not having Bowen in my team. Paqueta, 11 points, goal, bonus, 2 shots on target against Burnley, and then 8 points and another goal against Freiburg. So back-to-back goals for Paqueta. He did get an early sub, which he didn't look happy about. There was a few times that he went down in the game, so maybe Moyes was a bit worried about injury. But Paqueta didn't look happy about going off, so must have been feeling fine. He's got a 5.2 average, so averaging quite high points, 7 goals, 6 assists. But I just can't see myself picking Paqueta over Kudus or Bowen at the minute. It's got to be one of the first two. Defence, I'd probably avoid, even though they have kept a clean sheet in this one. They're playing Aston Villa next, which you might have a better chance of a clean sheet with them not having Ollie Watkins, but I just think there are better defences that we can be targeting. Before I do my team update, leave a like on the video and comment below with how many points you're on this game week. Also, let me know how many players you're lining up with, because it's not looking very good for me. So this week, I've got 100 points, which I'm pretty pleased with, but it's been a high scoring game week. That takes me up to 3,075 points in total. And that is a massive green arrow from 305th last week to 304th this week. So 1 place for the game week. You got to take these green arrows. After the West Ham game, actually, I'd gone from 290th all the way to around 400th. So was feeling pretty bad about the game week, but King Mo returned and saved my game week with a 22-pointer. I'll start with the keeper first though. Edison, 0 points, picked up an injury as well. Blanks because he's injured, but probably wouldn't have played in the FA Cup game anyway. Virgil van Dijk got me 6, happy with him. I'm pretty happy with bringing Gabriel in, even though he blanked. In hindsight, if I'd have known that I had these injuries, maybe I'd have left him. But bringing him in, getting these 12 points, I was pretty happy with doing that. Robertson, 5 points. Saka was my captain, got me 20. Foden got me 3. De Bruyne got me 7. Saka is going to blank. De Bruyne looks like he's going to blank now as well because he's injured. Pascal Gross, I kept the faith with him after that quiet week last week, and he's delivered 14 points. Again, really, really reliable for bonus. I think he got 3 bonus points in this game and the game before, so really, really good. But again, he blanks. Ollie Watkins, 8 points. He did have back-to-back blanks with 2 points and 2 points in the last 2 games, but did get a goal. But now he's off injured. Haaland with 3 points. And yeah, like I said, I thought that I'd gone too early bringing Mohamed Salah in. But after that 22 points, I feel quite relieved. So that is my team for this week, up to 304th from 305th. I now have to decide what I do with these blanks, because going into 28, I knew that I was going to have Ederson, Saka, Gross and Gabriel, with a plan to remove Gross and Gabriel. But now I've gained another 2 blanks in Kevin De Bruyne and Ollie Watkins. So that puts me on 6 blanks for the game week. I technically have only got Virgil van Dijk, Robertson, Foden, Haaland and Salah available to play, which is looking a little bit grim. I'll now have to basically choose who I remove out of these blankers, and I'm going to base this on, will I want these players for future game weeks? Because, for example, Saka, I'm going to want him straight back in my team. Gabriel, I think Arsenal's defence has been pretty solid, and now that I've got multiple blankers, I think I'm pretty happy keeping hold of him. Pascal Gross, if Brian Fixtures get tough and he blanks, I think that he's someone that could go. De Bruyne, I was going to put him in my players to target, so ideally I would have liked to have kept him. And to be honest with you, I don't really believe the injury. I think this is getting him out of international duty, bunking off school. So I think De Bruyne I would keep. And then Ollie Watkins, I think it depends on the length of the injury. We'll be waiting for injury updates. I can't imagine that he's going to be back for this next fixture. So it just depends how serious that injury is going to be. Here's how I'm going to line up for next week, or my initial thoughts going into next week. Ederson, probably going to keep him there. Van Dijk, obviously, is going to play Manchester United away. I'm happy with him. Gabriel's going to blank. I'm thinking about keeping him. And then Robertson, again, plays Manchester United away. Saka, blank. I think I'll keep. Foden, home to Newcastle. I imagine he's going to start now that De Bruyne is out. Probably would have started anyway. And then Pascal Gross, blank. Thinking about taking him out. And then Watkins has West Ham. But if he is ruled out completely of that fixture, he will be someone that I will be thinking about taking him out, because he takes up a valuable striker spot. And there's some players that I've got my eye on. Erling Haaland, likely to be my captain, I think. And then Salah, Man United away. Not completely convinced that he starts after the minutes this evening, but he's going to be staying in my team anyway. My transfer decisions could still be affected by cup draws as well. If a certain team gets a favourable draw, maybe I'll be more likely to keep their players or bring their players in. Whereas if Arsenal, for example, end up drawing like a Bayern Munich or Real Madrid, maybe I'll start to feel a little bit less thrilled to keep Gabriel in my side. So initially I'm looking at maybe taking out Watkins and Pascal Gross. That allows me a striker and a mid, or I could have 2 midfielders. This feels more upside than if I was to replace an Ederson with a Kelleher. At best I might get a Kelleher clean sheet, whereas if I changed like a Watkins to a Son, maybe there's a chance of a hat-trick. Or if I changed a Gross to a Kudus, we saw this evening he got 17 points, so I feel like there's more upside in moving these midfield positions around. But it's going to be a wait and see on Ollie Watkins, on his fitness and the extent of the injury. Replacements, so if I was to take out Watkins and Gross, for example, Son, Maddison, both have appeal. I think I'm favouring Son though, because with Maddison, he's a nice option, but I think Kudus and Bowen are both better options. So Kudus or Bowen are definitely on my radar. I think at the minute I'm leaning towards Kudus. Nunes as an option up front as well. I don't think you can fully rule him out with that Brighton and Sheffield United home double in 29. That does look good, but I still feel like I'm leaning towards Son. Palmer, also another good option for midfield, but if I went for Son in my team up front, that's a non-European player, won't have sort of Champions League, Europa League. And if I brought Palmer in as well, that'd be another one. When game week 31 and 32 come, or 30 and 31, I'm going to have another 2 players with less fixtures. So I think I'm only going to look at bringing in 1 player without Europe. So this is what the team would look like if I was to make those moves. It would be Ederson in goal with a blank, Virgil and Robertson playing with Gabriel blanking, Saka, no game, Foden, and then De Bruyne, whether or not he's injured, I think he's going to be ruled out of this. Kudus in midfield, in for Pascal Gross. Son up top with Haaland as the captain and Salah. So Son, Haaland, Salah does look like a pretty scary front three. Let me know what transfer plans you're thinking of. I imagine you guys must be in a better position than me with available players. It really did backfire. I knew it was a possibility having these blankers that you could pick up an injury. But to pick up a Watkins injury, an Ederson injury and a De Bruyne injury does feel quite unfortunate. But game is the game. Get through game week 28 and we'll move forward. Have a nice international break. Put our feet up. Do check out the Dream Team Tonic podcast. Like I said, there'll be a link in the description below. But give us a subscribe and hit the notification bell because you'll be able to know when we're going to go live for our deadline stream on Saturday. Thanks for watching and I'll see you on the next episode. Goodbye.